I'm sure most of you are expecting a skit. Activision, you are in such a bad position. It's legitimately hard to make fun of you, to depict this awful scenario that is happening right in front of our eyes. Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and the goal of this video is not only to cover the split between Activision and Bungie, but also highlight that this is a move that had the writing on the wall for about 12 years at this point. Let's get started by covering the press release that came from Bungie announcing this split from Activision. When we first launched our partnership with Activision in 2010, the gaming industry was a pretty different place. As an independent studio setting out to build a brand new experience, we wanted a partner willing to take a big leap of faith with us. We had a vision for Destiny that we believed in, but to launch a game of that magnitude, we needed the support of an established publishing partner. With Activision, we created something special. To date, Destiny has delivered a combination of over 50 million games and expansions to players all around the world. More importantly, we've also witnessed a remarkable community, tens of millions of Guardians strong, rise up and embrace Destiny to play together, to make and share memories, and even to do truly great things that reach far beyond the game we share, to deliver a positive impact on people's everyday lives. We have enjoyed a successful 8-year run and would like to thank Activision for their partnership on Destiny. Looking ahead, we're excited to announce plans for Activision to transfer publishing rights for Destiny to Bungie. With our remarkable Destiny community, we are ready to publish on our own, while Activision will increase their focus on owned IP projects. The planned transition process is already underway in its early stages, with Bungie and Activision both committed to making sure the handoff is as seamless as possible. With Forsaken, we've learned and listened and leaned into what we believe our players want from a great Destiny experience. Rest assured, there is more of that on the way. We'll continue to deliver on the existing Destiny roadmap, and we're looking forward to releasing more seasonal experiences in the coming months, as well as surprising our community with some exciting announcements about what lies beyond. Thank you so much for your continued support. Our success is owed in no small part to the incredible community of players who have graced our world with light and life. We know self-publishing won't be easy. There's still much for us to learn as we grow as an independent global studio, but we see unbounded opportunities and potential in Destiny. We know that new adventures await us all on new worlds filled with mystery, adventure, and hope. We hope you'll join us there. Pretty crazy that Activision just lost easily its biggest developer underneath their umbrella. However, this is a move that has been coming for years, and this was emphasized by Jason Schreier over on Twitter, who said this has been coming for years. Activision and Bungie have had a rocky relationship since before Destiny 1 even shipped. It's also incredible news for those of us who love Destiny and want to see it thrive. At today's meeting announcing the news, Bungie staff cheered loudly. Can't overemphasize how happy they are not to just get away from Activision, but to have a game that they now completely own. Imagine a Destiny free from Activision's restrictive annualized schedule. Now you may be wondering why you want to take Schreier's word over any other journalist on the web. What does he know more than anybody else in the relationship between Activision and Bungie? Well, he wrote a book called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. I have not had the chance to read it, but when I was looking up general summaries of it, it does cover the transition as Bungie left Microsoft and went to work with Activision. So I do believe he knows some of the developers and people working within that relationship a lot better than most. I'm going to be more so focusing on the Activision side of things because I believe that's where my expertise lies. I've covered them for years and years, as most of you know, with all of my rants and skits on them. It's been a really fun time, but I think this is actually the most significant move we've seen happen in accordance with Activision in a while. Destiny necessarily isn't in my wheelhouse in the terms of knowledge, but from what I've read and heard, it seems that the game didn't launch that well, where there was a lot of grinding and there was a lot of monetization. Now it seems to be better with Forsaken, a step in the right direction in some ways, but overall I've also read that it seems like Bungie was making some of their own mistakes, where it's not just all Activision who shouldn't serve as the sole scapegoat, even if they suck very hard, which is actually supported by a tweet from a former developer who worked with Activision. Manveer says, "I remember when I quit Raven Software, an Activision studio, after they canceled the game and put the studio on COD support. When someone asked the COO, where's Activision going to make new IP from if all the studios are just helping Call of Duty? And his answer was, we have Bungie for that, which now they clearly no longer do. Now who's left underneath Activision? There's Toys for Bob, who developed Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, as well as Spyro Reignited Trilogy, both both those products made some decent money. We also have Activision Blizzard, who is a humongous cash cow with the likes of Overwatch, Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, the list goes on. Of course, we have developers who focused on Call of Duty, such as Treyarch, Infinity Ward. But how long can Activision survive by relying heavily on Call of Duty? Call of Duty still makes tons and tons of money, but I just don't see it being a feasible way to continue to grow as a company, especially when you see people celebrating a separation from Activision. That clearly indicates something bad, especially if it's head of Xbox, Phil Spencer. Looking forward to a very bright future working with one of my favorite independent studios on one of my favorite franchises. Excited to see how they continue to grow and evolve. Destiny. These are the things that say the most to me about where Activision is at. You see the head of Xbox celebrating it. Obviously, gamers are celebrating. We're seeing developer stories start to pop up now. And then even afterwards, we're now seeing Mike Morhaime fully departing Blizzard this April, who was a long-serving executive over at Blizzard. And this is one of many big moves happening over within the Activision family. That's why I get concerned about Sekiro. I find it so hard to imagine that Sekiro gets out of all these shenanigans unscathed and it comes out as a normal From Software product. I simply cannot imagine that. I know From Software's emphasized it's very much on our own terms, we just needed a partner to buy into our vision, but didn't Destiny and Bungie just do that? And look how that ended up. Not that it was such a colossal train wreck, but it led to some very bad practices. It led to a lot of upset gamers. What is most exciting about this news to me personally is the idea of Bungie going independent, because there is only one other company with a lot of money who is independent, and that is CD Projekt Red. Now, there is a vast difference between Bungie and CD Projekt Red. However, Bungie has just recently ran into a lot of money thanks to an investment. Let's read a bit about that. On Friday, Halo and Destiny studio Bungie announced a major partnership with Chinese tech and gaming company NetEase to help us explore new directions. The deal is to the tune of $100 million, giving the NetEase a minority stake in Bungie as well as a seat on its board of directors, according to Games Industry. The partnership will help Bungie grow into a global, multi-franchise entertainment studio, according to NetEase CEO William Ding. Bungie CEO Pete Parsons told the Wall Street Journal that a big part of our focus is to self-publish in the future. Rather than relying on companies such as Microsoft or Activision, Bungie signed a 10-year agreement with Activision to publish Destiny, which ends in 2020. Considering that Bungie just filed a trademark application for an undisclosed project called Matter, you have to wonder where some of that money they just earned from an investment is going to turn them into that global multi-franchise entertainment studio they were just talking about. This happens to be one of the few news stories where a lot of the information from the past is really filling in the blanks, and we can almost guess easily what's going to happen in the future, which is Bungie's going to continue building off of Destiny 2, and then they are going to announce a new IP and move forward with that as an independent studio, and we'll see how well they fare as a developer on their own. A rumor actually back in 2007, before Bungie and Microsoft had split, stated that Bungie did not like how Microsoft was constantly trying to handle everything they do, and I feel like the same thing happened here with Activision, which is to be expected. But as noted in the press release, which is entirely true, back in 2010, the games industry was a lot different. Where self-publishing, being an independent studio, it was a very, very risky move, much more back then than it is today. It's still risky nowadays, but with the games industry constantly growing, a lot of money coming into it, and live service projects really becoming something that you can lean into and build an entire studio off of, there is something to gain by going independent if you do it right. That's probably why Bungie ended up getting in bed with Activision in the first place, because they had originally left Microsoft to go do their own thing, and they had to find someone who could really buy into their vision, and now they've built up enough courage to move on, to give the finger to Activision and just say, that's it, we're going on our own now. More support for the writing being on the wall here is when Activision had actually announced they were disappointed with Destiny 2's Forsaken sales, to which then Luke Smith, who works over at Bungie, said, "We are not disappointed with Forsaken. We set out to build a game that Destiny players would love, and at Bungie, we love it too. Building Destiny for players who love it is and will remain our focus going forward." Meaning that we already saw some internal collisions going on that started to sort of air out into the internet a bit. This happened back in November, meaning that probably the idea to split and go separate ways was well underway at that point in time. I'm happy for Bungie in this situation. I hope Activision takes a really good look at itself in the mirror because it seems like everything's going downhill. We saw stocks drop. We're seeing big heads of the company leaving. We're seeing them lose a major developer. Nobody really wants to work with this company. I'm sorry, but Activision is awful for the industry, and what we hope to see next is EA. I hope we start seeing developers stand up to EA, split off of them. We see the Star Wars deal go down the tubes because that is easily the worst deal in video games that I have ever freaking seen. At least we can take some solace in Activision getting exactly what they deserve. I'm curious to see if Destiny builds itself into a much more positive light because of this, and if it becomes the game that a lot of people had originally hoped it would be now that we don't have Activision hanging out overhead. They have an obsession with annualization over at Activision. They always want the yearly product, the yearly releases, some type of timeline for everything. But if Bungie is handling it, I wonder how things are going to change in that respect as well. Can we still expect as frequent of updates for Destiny? And when they come around, will there still be the same breadth of issues that seem to pop up very frequently? Only time will tell on that, but exciting news nonetheless, and once again, Activision getting exactly what they deserve. As someone who's covered them for years and years and years, they've gutted some of my favorite franchises. We talked a little bit about Raven Software earlier. They developed one of the most underrated first-person shooters ever made, which is Singularity. If you own a 360 or a PS3, do yourself a favor, give it a rip. It is a really fun game, not too long either. It doesn't build up the backlog, so don't worry about that. But once again, Activision's been gutting studios for a long while, and now we're finally seeing a little bit of pushback on the developer side of things. Like, people are splitting off of them. We're seeing major people working at the company leaving. This is a sign, I wouldn't say of the end, but things are really going downhill for this company. We'll see in due time what happens as the dust settles, but that's all the information I have for you today. I hope you found it informative and you have a better idea of what's been happening for the last bunch of years between Activision and Bungie. And now, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below, so do fire away, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active, I love you all, peace.